So the other day, I was trying to log into my Google account when suddenly this appears. I know all of you are familiar with this. This is the CAPTCHA. And it's annoying, right? And it's also ridiculous because what even is the purpose of CAPTCHA? It's not like there are robots running around the world right now. Personally, I never stop to ask myself if I'm human, because throughout my whole life, that's the only thing that I'm sure of. And then, this computer gives me a bunch of jumbled numbers and letters to identify, as if my humanity depends on such a simple task. This kind of makes me nervous at times, because what if I get it wrong? Does it mean I'm not human? Does it mean I am a robot? Well, if you think about it, we're actually in a gradual process of turning into robots. Just imagine this. Every morning, we wake up and leave at the exact same time. Any second later, and the first thing that comes into our mind is, oh no, I'm gonna be late. The second you make that realization, our brains start to calculate how long it'll take for us to get ready, estimate the time we would spend in traffic, and decide if it would be better to just wait for the elevator or sprint up the stairs. You see, our minds already function like a GPS. We just never notice because it has already become a part of our norm. And it's turning us robotic, the same way school systems are turning us robotic. Schools are strict. I think that's a given fact, at least for most of us here. There are a lot of strict schedules to follow. There are times when you want a class to extend because you're in the flow, but you can't because the next teacher is already standing outside. Other times, there's not much to do in a class, but you can't have lunch early because it's not time yet. These schedules are dictating the way students are supposed to function. Even in the curriculum, students aren't exactly given a choice of which course they will take. I mean, which subjects they will take. Even in the cases where they are given a choice, like in senior high school and IB, someone has already pre-selected those subjects that they can choose from, or at least the things that they need to learn. And don't get me wrong, we have good choices. But what if a student's interest lies outside of what's pre-selected for them? For example, I'm a humanities student, and I love what I'm studying. But what if I also want to learn marketing? Well, I can't. Because according to the curriculum, I'm only supposed to learn about subjects within my own track. I know it's limiting, but it's not exactly surprising, because most of the things in our lives actually limit what we want and what we don't want to do. Culture is another example. Most of you come from Chinese-Filipino families, right? And coming from Chinese-Filipino families, there's a lot of passing down of traditions involved, even if we don't know what it's for or how it's relevant to us. For me, there are certain aspects of feng shui that I don't understand, but I still follow. Of course, I've tried asking why it's necessary to do spring cleaning, or why every piece of our furniture needs to be meticulously placed on this side of the room. But the most common answers I get are, your grandmother used to do this, or your grandfather taught us this. Like jumping up and down on New Year's Eve. I'm pretty sure all of you know that's not how it works. But you still have the urge to do it, because it's an idea that has been passed down to you, and it feels weird to break that tradition. This all means that the urge to follow has been wired into our brains. And the same goes for the expressions and the emotions we feel. Have you noticed that? If you find out that your best friend's family member died, or your cousin's about to graduate as magna cum laude in her school, the first things you would say are, I'm sorry, or congratulations. But we don't really mean that, do we? Maybe the emotions would follow after. But the first things we say are words and phrases programmed into our heads by the society. Our minds work like computer programs with a yes or no option. If we see that a person is sad, we select the option of sympathy. If we see that a person is happy, we select the option of gladness. Of course, there must be a reason behind the need to establish routines and honor traditions. But it can't be denied that society is programming us to act a certain way. if we keep letting that happen, well, and we're at risk of losing our individuality, our free will, and our emotions, which definitely makes us no different from robots. Pushed too far, it might even lead us to a situation that's similar to the book 1984 by George Orwell. In this book, the characters don't really get a chance to be individuals. Because their government, which is referred to as the party, scrutinizes their every action. They have to follow very strict routines. Something as simple as not exercising on the given time could get them punished. And they can't even think differently from everyone else because they'll get arrested by the thought police. Worst of all, there are no relationships, whether it's with family, with friends, or with a partner. People are banned from having relationships because they're not allowed to feel any other emotion aside from love to the party. Scary, right? But I don't think our society is going to end up like that because the youth have already started to break free from the society's conditioning. I've recently had a chance to visit Google headquarters in Singapore. And since this is an office, I initially had the impression that it would look somewhat like a call center. I have an irrational fear of working in an office, by the way, because the idea of sitting at a desk all day is just oppressing. But much to my surprise, Google is a far cry from what an office should look like. Just take a look for yourself. See that? That's more of a playground than a workspace. And imagine working at a place like this. It's hard to find a workspace that actually prioritizes the employee's comfort over just plain productivity. And it's hard to believe that the youth actually created Google from scratch. Though, it probably wouldn't be as revolutionary as it is now if Google just copied every idea of every existing company. But they chose to be different. And by creating a workspace that actually prevents their employees from working like streamlined robots, they gave their employees a chance to be human. A while ago, I also mentioned something about the education system telling us where our interests are supposed to lie. We can't really do anything to change the curriculum, but that doesn't mean we can't find a way out of whatever career path we end up in. Our Google facilitator, if I remember correctly, used to be a teacher. But Google hired him, not for what he took up in college, but for his management and collaborative skills. He ended up working a job completely different from what he took up in college, just like a relative of mine who ended up studying business instead of fashion design, but managed to turn his hobby into a business anyway. There are a lot of people who forge their career paths instead of following what society has set for them. This is the reason why there's a sudden emergence of careers that did not exist 20 years ago. Jobs involving graphic design, online business, freelance photography, and calligraphy. They all exist because there are people out there who question their pool of choices and decide that the existing careers do not satisfy them. The same goes for the advice we get from our elders or from our community. Coming from a Chinese Filipino family, we basically only have 3 career choices. It's either we become a doctor, a lawyer, or a businessman. These are the traditional career paths to success, and any career outside of that is considered impractical. I myself am preparing myself to become a lawyer, and I think this is my own decision because I feel like the skills that I have are better suited for law. Actually, there's no pressure coming from my parents or my relatives at the moment, but I'm still in the process of understanding whether I made this decision because of what I see around me or because I'm starting to think for myself and break free from the society's conditioning. I know this is a process, but if it doesn't work out for me, I still have filmmaking, writing, and diplomacy to try. We have to remind ourselves once in a while that it's okay to do something different. It's okay to question traditions because you don't understand them. And it's okay to value our own emotions instead of supersizing them. I still get annoyed whenever I see that CAPTCHA. But it made me realize that it does make sense to ask, to confirm whether or not we are robots. We have always lived our lives under the conditioning of society. Maybe the true purpose of CAPTCHA is to remind us that we have to assert our humanity, use our free will, value our own emotions, express ourselves in our own individual ways, and say with confidence that CAPTCHA, we are not robots. We're human. But thanks for the reminder. Thank you and have a good day.